About to do a review of the newest Wicked movie. Last weekend, I was invited to get my electrolytes in me. Hydrate, get your electrolytes. But last weekend, I was invited to a premiere through TikTok to see the Wicked for Good movie, right? And so I've never seen any of the Wicked movies, and I've never cared about Ariana Grande like that. You feel me? But it was free, and it had an after party and some installations and whatnot. So I figured I have face mask in my hair. That's crazy. So I figured why not go check it out, right? So I took some notes while I was watching the movie, which is mad funny because there was a security guard and homie took his job serious. And I'm not, I'm not down talking it. It's just literally if he saw a phone, he'd be like, and then just start walking that way. And he'd just stand there for a second. And so I was taking notes while I was in the theater. And then I'm not gonna lie, I started applying for auditions and stuff because I was, hey, why not? The time called. Anyways, I took some notes, and this is the first time I'm going over them, so I might have to stop and remember them a little bit. The first thing that I see is the song Happiness, and I don't remember why I wrote that song down, but I do know this. In that song, in that scene, Ariana Grande's lips were dry as hell, dog. Like I was sitting there and I just was looking like the first two or three scenes, I was just like, who did this? Or who didn't do this? This being let her come on stage or on camera with dry lips, bro, and who didn't tell her they was dry, and who decided these was the clips that they was gonna take and keep? Because it's like if I'm noticing this, I know somebody else noticed this, so that kind of pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie. Why is the star or one of the stars of the movie have dry lips, dog? That's crazy. And then the second thing I was thinking about once I realized that it was Ariana Grande and that she was the one who broke Mac's heart. Mac Miller's the GOAT, you feel me? One of my favorite artists, right? So I couldn't help but actually think about Mac after I saw her, and then I was like, dang, dog, man, I can't even watch this now because I'm kind of pissed because Mac's not here, man. And I associate you with Mac. And you could just draw the rest of the conclusions. I don't want to blame nobody or nothing. Place fault. I don't know nothing about their dynamic. All I know is you the one who had Mac caught up. We talking about Mac Miller ain't nobody iller. You feel me? You know Mac could pull hoes, dog. And so it's like, dang. This is who Mac was caught up over? This is who he was stuck on? God damn it, dog. Man, she must be special. And so I can't front. The first 10, 15 minutes of the movie, those are the only two things that I really had to say. Is wow, what is going on with this first song, Happiness? Wow, her lips are dry. And wow, this is the same bride that got my man Mac Miller caught up. R.I.P. And then I decided to lock in and really watch the movie, right? And so the next thing I had notes on is the first scene where we get to see the green wicked witch, right? And she comes flying in and she's actually trying to warn the people, right? And she writes in the sky and she writes that Oz lies. And instead, everybody reads he dies, right? And they get fearful. Ah. And I just thought about the distortion of messages and how that can happen in real life, and also how sometimes the things that are supposed to be for our good or the things that are trying to be for our good, they get flip flop. You feel me? It's like someone is trying to tell you something good and you're looking at them as the enemy, and then the enemy is lying to you and you're taking them as being truthful. It's like, how often does that happen in everyday life? Crazy. And then my next question was, why is she green? Like, there was no other green beings. She had a sister, and her sister wasn't green. So why is this woman green? I can someone answer that? Is it answered in the first movie? That was one question that I ended up with because I'm like, bro, where are the other green people? And then the next thing that I thought was interesting was that the wizard says people will only believe what they want after they've already bit into something. And I was like, wow, that's so sad. Mainly because it means that even after you are shown signs that what you're believing might be fake or fugazi, you've already bit the apple, so you decide you might as well to continue eating it, as opposed to getting something better for you to eat or something else to eat. And part of it is like, I'm thinking, like, why are people like that? And it's because after we choose something, we don't want to be wrong. And so instead of accepting the new information, growing and adapting, we'll continue in the same way or manner just in order to feed our own ego and beliefs because we can't face the fact of us being wrong or not getting something right. And so I guess that for me is something that just draws me to make sure that before I choose a side, I do more introspection on why I'm choosing the side I am. So by the time I'm already convinced of where I lie, the truth is already out. So I don't have to work hard against myself to prove that whatever I'm supporting is the truth. But I think that's just evident. And then my next question is, why do so many of the songs sound the same or seem the same? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just didn't appreciate the nuances of the music, but I just felt as if, I don't know, maybe the singers, I don't know what it is, but the only person whose songs seemed to be different was the Green Witch. Elphia, I believe is her name. You see, I don't even remember the characters. And maybe that was on purpose because she was, you feel me, switching up the status quo and trying to break through the noise. So her music was different. And if that's the case, I appreciate that nuance a lot. But at the same time, being someone who's appreciative of music and good music and also comes from a theater background, unfortunately, fortunately, however, and musical theater is something I had to partake in. It's like, where's the nuance? Where's the differences? Where's the switch ups? Like, keep it interesting. It seems like you just made them sing one song over and over with different words. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But I felt like the music could have been a little more nuanced. And then something that I thought was funny was Oz had a song where he was talking about the ugly truth and also talking about Elphia, which brings me back to the point of why is she green? Like, it just made his song so much more like funny and actually fitting, even though it wasn't like he was like implicitly talking about Elphia as opposed to the truth and the ugly truth, and he was the ugly truth and she was the actual truth, but she was ugly. Like, I don't know. I don't know. And this is again where I'm like, maybe it was just me being a little unfamiliar with the nuance of the story. But I did appreciate that little fact, but it still made me ask, why the fuck is she the only green person? Also, looking at the new Wicked movie and the odds saying that people will believe what they want to after they've already bit into something makes me just think about like public opinion and social media and how after being presented with ideas in the media, we will take them for the truth. And then once life shows us otherwise, we'll still double down on it. And that's just like, why do we as humans sometimes have such a hard time course correcting and accepting the fact that we were wrong, could be wrong, or even at the least could be better or do things differently? I think that's one of the biggest things the movie just made me question with what they were implicitly saying is people need a lie. People need the bad in order to make room for the good. It is like that's crazy. And the people who were in the kingdom were completely unbeknownst to any of the inner workings of anything that was going on. And that just makes me beg the question of how much of this movie is supposed to just represent real life status quo. And the fact that Ariana Grande is a celebrity in real life. And then in the movie, she was pretty much flaunting as a celebrity who was in power or was some type of royal being who had no magic or no actual power, but the people trusted and believed in her. So they used her for all of their schemes and controls of power. And so this is going a little longer than I thought. I guess I'm going to have to do a part two. And then I'm also going to just post the whole video on my YouTube channel. So if you want to see the whole thing at one time, just go to my YouTube channel because this might take up way more than just one or two parts. All right, so this is part two of my Wicked for Good review. I gotta get my electrolytes in me. So I left off on talking about how I said people will believe whatever they want after they bit into something. And then I was also commenting on his song talking about the ugly truth and the fact that Althea was green. So it was like, that's kind of interesting how the two tie in together, and him talking about the ugly truth, but her being the one who's bringing the truth. And she just happens to be considered ugly, which also just brings me back to asking, why is she green and the only green person? And I was writing on my notes in ChatGPT while I was in the theater just because it was up. And I was trying to, use my phone as little as possible. So I just typed in what was up and then I entered it. And so when I asked, when I wrote, why the fuck is she green? ChatGPT says the green represents otherness, the burden people project onto her, and the way society colors someone before they can define themselves. Define them themselves? Or before they can define themselves? Take that two ways, because sometimes before people actually know themselves, they'll interpret you as being a certain way, and then they'll realize that they were reading you that way because it's something that they were doing or how they were being. And then the fact that people label or define something before they actually know anything about it just because of how it looks. So I guess people saw that she was green and were scared of her because she looked funny. And I guess that's another reason to say that she was the only green person, because she wasn't accepted because she was green. Okay, maybe I get why she was green now. The movie doesn't work if she wasn't green. But back onto my original notes. So what you see? Oh, Oz trying to recruit her, and also Ariana Grande's character Glinda. Yeah, I think it was Glinda wanting to recruit Elphia and telling her that she had so much power and magic and that they could use it for good, quote unquote, and that she could be revered and respected and praised by the people. And it's like, bro, that's so crazy, because it's the two people with the least amount of natural power and magic who are trying to manipulate her into using hers for what they think it should be used for. And not only telling her how she should use the gifts and powers and talents that she's been giving, but telling her that she should be praised for it. And it's like, she wasn't seeking that. She wasn't seeking recognition. She wasn't seeking attention. She low-key was asking, why do I even have these gifts and talents and powers? And instead of them taking any type of heed to listen to what she wanted, where she was coming from, they just said, get with us or get lost, or let us use you essentially, or we don't want anything to do with you. And I feel like that just comes back into real life, where it's like always the people who aren't able to do something themselves, who are trying to convince other people to use what they have or what they can do or their abilities or their network or their reach for things that aren't even in that other person's favor or that person's interest, because they're not able to reach their own interest. So they try to manipulate others to reach it for them. And I feel like it also just goes to speak into, once you find out that people are on BS, sometimes they'll try to get you to join their BS or partake in their BS just to cover it up, right? And it's like, don't try to be friendly now if you weren't interested in being friendly before. And it also just makes me look at just real life again. It's just like, how often are people really on BS, and that's why they decide to be friendly, because they're trying to cover it up, right? And so I don't know. I've never seen any of the Wicked movies, and I'm not gonna say I couldn't care less about the movie itself, but let's be honest, it's a fairy tale magical world full of singing princesses and shit. That's not geared for my age range and demographic, right? So I had to look at the movie in a bigger picture view and see how it could be applied to everyday real life and just actual overall principles. And then again, like I said, I was typing my notes in ChatGPT, so it was answering some of my questions, and I wasn't expecting it to. I was just trying to save it. But and me asking like, why did so many of the songs seem the same in the new Wicked movie? It's saying that the characters are supposed to be stuck in parallel traps and loops. So it's like they're singing the same patterns and cycles over and over. And that's actually interesting, because that's exactly what was going on. And it's like the other person who tried to step out of it along with Elphia, I don't know the prince's name, was it Edward? He also ended up pretty much getting capped, right? And it was also really interesting to see that Ariana Grande's character, Glinda, who was supposed to be for the good was the one who ultimately ended up getting not only one person capped, not only two people capped, but three different people capped, all just because the fairy tale story that she wanted didn't work out, but she was lying about everything from the beginning. And so once she still didn't get what she wanted after lying and manipulating it, she ruined three other people's futures. And I'm like, wow, that's actually crazy. I've seen something like that try to play out in real life, but literally. So, Elphia was estranged, left the castle, right? Glinda and the prince, Edward, whatever, ended up getting fakely engaged. He didn't want it at all. He didn't want to be a part of the fake world, the fake universe, or any of it because he knew they were lying to everybody, right? And so, after getting engaged to Ariana Grande's character, he decides to leave and go find Elphia or go with Elphia. Once she sees that, she sends a lie and a message out, or she helps somebody send a lie and a message out to not only get Elphia to come to them, but ends up capping Elphia's sister in the process. And then the prince ends up getting got too, and they cap him. And this is one thing I thought was interesting is that the Wicked movies like tried to wrap up the story of the Wizard of Oz. And so it was cool to see the history between how the Scarecrow became the Scarecrow and how the Tin Man became the Tin Man. But it was also mad interesting to see that it didn't have to happen, and the fact that the Wicked Witch was actually trying to save Oz, the land of Oz, the whole time. And I'm like, that's also interesting because it just goes to show how stories can get manipulated and the truth can get misconstrued and lost in people's perception because people just perceived that the wizard was great. And after they perceived it, he said, I have to keep lying to you guys and manipulating you until the end of my days, because if not, then what? He was like, I'd rather be a fraud my whole life than get found out as a fake one time. That's a crazy way to live. But it made me wonder how many people are actually living that way, where they lied about one thing one time and created a whole false narrative of their life around that one lie. Isn't that exhausting? Isn't that crazy, bro? But it also just goes into question like, what would someone do for power and control? They would deny themselves the truth of their existence just in order to be able to control someone else. That's strong. Like, you'll deny yourself in order to control someone else. What? Why? And then also from the new Wicked movie, it just goes to show is like, when someone can't get you to join their BS, they'll just flip the narrative on you. And now you're the problem. And you don't even have to necessarily be trying to take them down. It's just you know too much and now they feel vulnerable. So instead of stopping the BS or coming clean with the truth, they'll just attack you. And I'm like, wow, bro, like, isn't that crazy to think? But I just seen it happen in real time on the screen. All she did was say, I don't want to be a part of this world. And she left. Once she left, they said, you know too much. And since you know too much, you're a liability to the whole kingdom. So you have to go down. And then it's also interesting because once she left and was no longer around, that's when they started their smear campaign. They started to say she was wicked. They started to say they needed to take her down. They started to say that she wanted to hurt the public and turn the whole public against her, all because she found out the truth and didn't want to be a part of it. Oh, and also another thing from the Wicked for Good movie, when Elphia writes in the sky that Oz lies and it gets turned into Oz, offs. It's just like how someone can say something and it gets interpreted as something completely different. Even if it's written in plain words, by the time other people get to the message, it can be just distorted. And all you can do is say, that's not what I said. And now, you feel me, it's up to the other party to actually believe the truth or the lie. And a lot of people will believe the lie.